All right.
All
Hi,
right.
everyone. All right. I hear a little bit of echo here or there. Thank you so much for all joining for another ecstasy session today. We have a lot of cool women with us today. We have Melissa Lim. We will introduce you properly. Lindsay Kiefauer, and then also Magda Milas, amazing women with a lot of knowledge about Web3 marketing, both from more commercial but also nonprofit perspective. Thank you all for tuning in or watching this potentially later. I think it's very, very cool. Just to quickly mention that today the topic of discussion will indeed be this one over here. So we will speak about sustainable Web3 growth strategies, just because there's so much to do in the Web3 space in terms of growth, in terms of marketing, in terms of things that work and that don't work. So we at Thrilled Labs and Ecstasy, we thought, why not set up an amazing panel with proper marketing experts? So maybe, ladies, welcome. Would you like to quickly introduce yourselves before I circle back with a couple of small updates? Maybe we can start with Lindsay if you want to take a shot.
Yeah, sure. I'll kick it off. So, hey everyone out there, I am Lindsay. I will tell you my Web3 journey here real quick. So, I discovered Bitcoin back in 2013. I entered Web3 personally investing in 2016 and then professionally, I guess, in 2021. I have touched on every phase of the customer acquisition funnel from leading teams and strategy around marketing, BD, customer success, user support, DevRel. I mean, everything. At this point, I've contributed probably around $1 trillion of on-chain asset movement and been pretty lucky to manage partnerships across a lot of domains in the space. Can confidently say that I am definitely not an expert, as I don't think anybody should be, but I learn something new every single day and still have a lot to learn from everybody. But yeah, I started my career in on and off ramps in the payment space, moved over to custody, owned a top L1 accelerator, and now really focusing on marketing and BD. Half my day is at Coinbound, so Web3 marketing agency, and then the other half of my day is spent at Denari Labs. That's a tokenomics accelerator that's backed by Redbeard Ventures. So that is me in a nutshell.
Thank you for being honest, transparent, but also concise. And I mean, we cannot wait really to learn from you. Specifically, I'll be making a lot of notes today, taking a lot of notes just to learn from everyone. Maybe Magda, would you like to go ahead, and then Melissa?
Sure, Alexandra. Thank you for having me. Hello, ladies. Hello to everybody, everyone who's watching us. So my name is Magda. I come from Croatia. I'm actually, my career for the past 10 years has been involved mostly in the financial sector. So I'm a former banker who went into crypto. My experience involved with one of the biggest cryptocurrency companies here in the region. So with crypto payments, cryptocurrency exchanges. Then I went into mostly developing fintech for corporations, and also my role today is to speak as the president of the Alice in Blockchains, a nonprofit female organization that a team of 5 ladies established 2 years ago, with the role and with the goal of bringing education and networking and of course women to the whole female, let's say, community, not just in Croatia, but at the moment, Croatia and the region, so countries that are speaking more or less the same language, because when we talk about Web3, it's a lot of question marks usually popping, because masses are not familiar with the crypto and blockchain so much. So as a first start, we wanted to engage like the audience from the region, and in the future, hopefully to go more, let's say, global, to cover more European countries. But at the moment, it's Croatia and the region.
Very, very cool. Thank you. Thank you for adding that also to the table. And by the way, for everyone who is watching, what is amazing, and thank you for the introduction once more, Magda. What is amazing is that we're located all across the globe. So we have indeed Magda and myself here based out of Europe. And we have Melissa based out of Singapore, and indeed Lindsay out of the US. Melissa, please tell us a bit more also about yourself. We can't wait to hear.
Yeah, sure. I mean, compared to Lindsay and Magda, who are probably veterans in Web3 compared to myself, I've been freelance marketing for Web3 companies just only in the past 2 years. But my entire last decade of my career is dedicated to marketing, so Web2 marketing, doing things like social media, community growth, and email marketing, the very traditional, what we now call traditional, I think. So yeah, I've learned so much. Personally, I've only started learning about crypto in 2019, and that was when the pandemic happened, and I had a lot of time on my hands, and that was when I really dived deep into learning all about crypto and what does it mean, and investing. I mean, regularly I don't just look at the stock market, but I also had a lot of interest in finding out what are the returns when it comes to investing in crypto. So that was how my interest really started. And I started joining different communities, and they have been so welcoming that, I've learned so much along the way with them as well. Yeah. So I've mainly focused on the community growth part, and also helping brands grow on X. Yeah.
Wow, speaking about that, and thank you for that wonderful intro. You ladies are all, I think, very humble, but I think that today we're going to hear a lot about your expertise, and I think we will learn actually a lot, all of us watching and listening. Speaking about X or LinkedIn or other socials, we're live streaming on a couple of different platforms. Unfortunately, not on X because they threw out that integration unless you pay a lot. And we're a startup at Thrilled Labs, so unfortunately we had to throw that out. But if anyone is watching on LinkedIn, on YouTube, or if you're one of those 5 followers on Instagram that we are already having, feel free to drop us a message, and we will also showcase live on screen the questions that you have. I'm sure that's otherwise you can drop one of us a message later. Now, I would also actually like to take this before we start with the first couple of questions that I think is going to lead to a lot of very, very interesting and open debates. What I would actually like to do for a second is to give you all, everyone who is watching, a quick introduction into, let's say, the platform. Let me just put everyone quickly like that. So I just wanted to give you a quick update, right? Of course, we're all here today to speak about sustainable Web3 growth strategies, but I would already like to call you, whenever you're watching this, to think a little bit more about, for instance, airdrops in the Web3 space. Are they really leading to longer term engagement with the project? Yes or no? Other types of questions you can already start thinking about. Maybe we can pose them later to our panelists. How will marketing in this space really change over the next couple of years? Maybe even how does AI come into the consideration? And this will also be, for instance, an interesting question for Melissa, especially given that she's also bringing over a decade of experience in the Web2 space. Maybe other types of projects, types of examples of projects that that have really held this short-term buzz and really turned it into long-term retention. And I think other specific questions that we can consider are things like, yes, for-profit organizations, they are doing a lot of different strategies, but how about not-for-profits, right? This is also definitely something we will ask Magda later. Now, of course, we're all here today as most of us are members of the ecstasy communities. This is kind of like a humble kind of approach from Thrilled Labs that I'm leading as the founder. Ecstasy itself is kind of meant as a female-powered Web3 business community. We're really trying hard to bring together awesome women in the space, Web3 professionals, investors, people who are building, who are marketeers, such as the awesome ladies here today. And what I would just like to remember everyone is, if you're not in our, for instance, network group on Telegram yet, feel free to check out the Ecstasy kind of like community. We have a couple of resources online, and you can also always drop me a message if you would like to connect with ladies in the group. And why is this specifically important? Well, of course, not because only we want to kind of help each other, right? And hustle together and do business together, but also because at Thrilled Labs, when we have specific perks, for instance, this one over here, members of the ecstasy community have priority access. So for instance, we have not announced this publicly yet, but we have just created a partnership with Token 2049. We don't only have a discount code, but actually we also have a couple of free entrance tickets up for grabs. So if you want to go to Token 2049 for free, let us know and you might win one of the tickets that we have for you. Actually, that same goes for Blockstart Scotland, where I will be next week together with Colin, who is also involved with Thrilled Labs. It's the biggest Web3 event in Glasgow and indeed in Scotland. And we still have some free tickets. So if you want one, let us know. Same actually goes for the Blockchain Futurist Conference happening in just a couple of weeks from now in Toronto. So we're really moving from Singapore to Europe to Toronto now. And finally, and this is actually a really, really important one, because the founder, or I should say, the lead of partnerships, and I think she was in the founding team as well, of Web3 Tales is actually with us here today. It's Magda. And they have adopted also Thrilled, native networking platform that is built by Thrilled Labs for their attendee matchmaking at their wonderful conference happening in early October of this year. So if you do want to go to Zagreb, definitely make sure to reach out to us. And if you want to learn more about Web3 Tales and how this is going to be a super, super cool DeFi event happening indeed in Croatia, in the capital, let us know. It's going to be really, really awesome. And I'll be there myself as well. And of course, Magda will be there as a member of the core team. So having said that, the final thing that we would like to mention is that our prior session, where we spoke about indeed Web3 events and how to really get the most out of them, that session can now be watched on YouTube, but we also created a wonderful article out of it for those who prefer reading. And I think it's really fun to read all the tips and tricks. A lot of them actually not obvious. So a lot of tips and tricks for how you can make the most out of attending a Web3 conference are actually pretty much out of the box. I didn't necessarily think about that before we spoke with our awesome panelists. So feel free to check them out soon on our website as well. Okay, now enough shilling. No, but most of these things are also all for free and are really done, hopefully, to help people in the community. So it's not really chilling, right? It's more, sharing some news, hopefully, that is of use to people. Let me just circle back and stop sharing this from my end. And actually, we can finally now move to the substance, right, of today's session. Let me just get everyone back on screen. Oops. It's not so easy to talk and to moderate at the same time. All right. Okay. So, ladies, thank you all for not falling asleep and remaining on. I would like to start, actually, with a very first question. Maybe, Lindsay, if possible, I would like to ask you first. You're so much involved these days with Web3 marketing, as we've just heard, right, in the introduction. I was curious if you ever come across, just to start a bit in an unconventional way, did you ever come across a super unsustainable marketing practice in this space? And if so, would you be willing to share it, even if you don't name the company, or you do, Ken?
Yeah, I think it doesn't have to do with a specific company. I think when I think about unsustainability, it really comes from two things. So bad budgeting, first off. So bad budgeting practice, and then trying to do too many things at once. So both those things are really unsustainable when you're trying to figure out what your marketing strategy as a whole is, no matter if you're in Web 2 or Web 3, either way. So as a marketer, like, you really need to understand what moves the needle and invest in that specifically. So the answer to that question isn't going to be the same for every type of company in the industry, right? They really need to test and measure, figure out what works, and then get rid of what doesn't work. So it's okay to have something not be successful. It's okay to launch a marketing campaign that sucks. Now you know not to do it, right? So reallocate your budget there. Trying to do too many things at once on the product side also creates a lot of tech debt too. You really need to find a product market fit. So really finding those early champions to shape your product and to make sure your product is actually working, it actually fixes the problem. You really want to focus on having that really strong early community to be able to give you that feedback. So those first 100 people, probably 100 people, maybe even less than that, in your community are really going to be the most important. And then circling back, the corporate speak, circling back to bad budgeting really means that, again, like you need to spend your money in places that work. You need to understand what moves that needle. You need to understand what to invest into. You'll want to do those A/B testings to understand the point of saturation. And what I mean by that is narrow down your audience, understand what content gets the most conversions or views. And that really depends on what your goals are, right? And then when it starts to be too much for your audience. Like that's that point of saturation. That means it's too saturated. So really use that performance data on and off chain to really make great decisions.
Thank you very much. That was definitely useful, of course. And I'm really happy that you are so straightforward and honest as well, because it's sometimes a bit hard with Web3 marketing to kind of like look through all the different advices and things that you read online. There's a lot of sometimes faulty advice, in my opinion as well, but maybe we'll get to that in a second. Melissa, I would like to ask you as well, and again, for everyone who is watching, if you see me not immediately reacting or paying attention, it's just because I'm also busy with the moderation of the microphones and whatnot at the same time. Melissa, how do you feel about this topic? What makes, let's say, a marketing strategy sustainable or totally unsustainable for you, especially given your decade of experience as well?
Well, I think for me, the key is always having a real community around your brand and your product, and not overhyping your brand at the beginning when you don't really have any products for people to purchase, and it's all just hype. Sure, I mean at the beginning, if you are able to hire 100 KOLs who have lots of followers on X, that's fine. But you realize that you get a lot of initial traction, but eventually it dies out very quickly. So it kind of crashes and burns, and you've just wasted your first, 50,000 of your budget, right? So I would rather spend that 50,000 on actually building a community, letting people know that what your company stands for, what is your product roadmap, and making sure that you are engaging with it. It could be just the first 10 people, and slowly growing it to 20, and then 50 people, and then 100. And these are the people who will give you real feedback about your product, about your community. What would they like to see more of? And these are real feedback that you can get at but not by spending a lot of money and a lot of your budget. So I think because I've mainly come from a tech startup space as well, really startups that are starting from scratch. So I do feel when it comes to Web3, I applied a lot of the same reasonings to Web3 as well. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that makes total sense to me. I think it's hard to disagree with that, and I think that that it's very interesting that we're bringing these types of different perspectives together. Maybe that brings me, and thank you for Melissa for sharing your thoughts here. That brings me actually to Magda. I will just unmute you because there was a bit of echo. How do you feel, right? Because you're so deeply involved with a non-profit organization. How do you feel about everything Web3 marketing from a kind of like your perspective, your unique non-profit perspective?
Yeah, it's It's actually, I would have to say, it's another perspective because, okay, our association is focused on women from the Web3 space or women from Web2 who are willing, who want to learn and to engage more in the Web3 space. But when we established our association, which was a little more 2 years ago, we actually didn't have any expectations. We did like a mass approach to everybody. It was a lot of PR. We are doing it totally free of charge, voluntarily, on a voluntary basis. The association is non-profit. But I have to say that so it was like a picture of people, of 5 of us who actually established the company, the association. And I have to say that we grabbed a lot of attention because it was, okay, who are these chicks who went into blockchain, we actually grabbed a lot of attention. But what happened? It all happened organically. It wasn't, we had none until today, we had none of paid marketing, zero of paid advertising. All of our results were actually organic. And I have to say that the mass market approach where we let's say advertise education of female education, it organically attracted. It was a mass approach, but as I said, it organically attracted more women who are already doing something in the space, because I feel from one side a little bit sorry because we didn't manage to attract as many as women from the Web2 space who have, let's say, who would like to learn more and who have like zero experience and knowledge in this space. But on the other side, we gathered a lot of experts, a lot of women who are already naturally working in the space, not just in the Web3 space, but also in Web2, which is involved with Web3. For example, the financial sector, we have a lot of lawyers, we have a lot of also engineers, female engineers, also marketing, so legal, financial, marketing, engineering, etc. So we are still actually testing and trying to see what strategies are working best. But as said, organically, it was natural to attract ladies who are already working in this space. And it's also a little bit hard now at this moment after 2 years where we have like 120 members, 150, let's say, of female who are experts in the area. It's a little bit hard to attract a new target, which would be women who have zero knowledge of it, because it's hard to catch up, because this industry, the Web3, is pretty complex. You have to learn a lot, you have to investigate a lot. It's something, if you're not working in it, or if you're not like somehow connected with it on a daily basis, it's pretty hard to catch up with it. So I would say that somehow it happens when it comes to nonprofit. It happens organically, but you definitely need to do a lot of talking, a lot of networking, a lot of it's something that happens really naturally, organically, but it still involves a lot of the development work, the business development work, and definitely networking, meetups, and just talk. So.
Just talk. Love that you just added that. Yes, Magda, thank you for sharing that. It's very recognizable, right, what you just said. I think to most of us that are listening, right, because we care about organic growth, about community building. I must say that for us at Thrilled Labs, we never pay for any exposure or marketing or collaborations or speaking positions. And that is just because I don't have the budget, quite frankly. So we set up things like this. Right. Yeah, of course, it's for community building, but it's also to make ourselves a little bit visible. Let's be honest, in this digital kind of space that we're all in, we're competing with each other on a global scale, right? So maybe, right, so you said that it was a bit tricky for you to look for new strategies, to speak especially to women who are not so much yet involved professionally. That maybe brings me to an extent at my next question. And maybe let me ask Lindsay first. because I think that there are, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of different strategies in marketing, especially specifically tailored to, for instance, more B2B or B2C or B2D. I wouldn't even necessarily know what the B2D stands for. Apart from that, it's quite tricky also to pronounce. So maybe you can enlighten us from that perspective. What do you like to bring to the table here? Sorry, you're still muted. Apologies. You see, I have to do too many things at the same time. Please take the floor.
That's okay. Everyone can hear me. We're good. Okay. No, I mean, yeah, there's a lot. I've had exposure across all of them, luckily. So B2B, that's business to business. So you're talking about partnerships, right? And I'm going to break it down as I go. So like when you're dealing with B2B, they want to know why they should, let's say, integrate you or work with you or partner with you, and what the cost is. Like, let's be honest, when you're having those conversations, that needs to happen in the first conversation, so they can make a decision if they want to take that back to the team. B2D, so this is like the devs. This is the devs in the industry. That is an audience for a lot of these protocols. They want to know how easy it is to integrate, and is it good enough for their users? Like, are they taking the time to code and integrate this information to optimize their product or not, right? And then B2C, that's to consumers. That's like everyday users. They want to know how fast it is and how much, basically. So you really need to understand the customer journey from discovery to conversion with each one of these verticals, because it is very different. So for B2B, this is like the partnerships, right? Your potential partners are going to be doing research to make sure that you're legit, right? So who's on the team? Who are the other reputable partnerships that you have? And you also need to think in terms of non-technical decision makers. They need to be able to go to your pages or look through your community and have an understanding of what your product is, so that they can actually take that back internally to their team and pitch it to their technical decision makers as well. So you need to be thinking in terms of both of those audiences in B2B. For the devs, they are going to want to see your documentation. So you better make sure that, like, your API docs or your GitHub, wherever your technical docs live, you want to make sure that they're pristine, along with having some place for your DevRel community, because they need an outlet to give their own feedback or to ask questions. And you want to track that as well, so you can take that back to the product team. And then last, for the consumers, like, again, like, these are your users. Again, it's going to be community. That's a big one. Really need to make sure that your UX really sets your product apart from others, because there are a lot of competing products in the space right now. It doesn't have, your product doesn't have to be a brand new concept. It can just be simpler and easier with a lower cost solution compared to others, but you better make sure that you can integrate it much easier, and that you have a stellar BD team to maintain those relationships, and your marketing has very good knowledge of your product to be able to communicate that without having to have an actual conversation.
Thank you for that. I was so busy taking notes, because this is absolutely interesting, right? You've put a lot of excellent one-liners out there that I was quickly noting down. So thank you for that, Lindsay. Melissa, maybe let me circle back actually to you and unmute you. Do you have something to add from your perspective here? We cannot hear you for some reason.
Sorry, I muted myself.
No problem.
Right. Okay. So I think I agree with what Lindsay has mentioned, especially when it comes to the B2D. The developers are looking for your documentations, and when it comes to things like GitHub, you have to make sure that they can find what they're looking for. And what is your competitive advantage? Is it that you are cheaper to use, you're faster to use? And I would say when it comes to B2C, it would be more like, I don't know, for me, B2C, what I've seen brands do really well is to build a very strong community together, and not just not just hyping it up on one-sidedly, but also involving the communities and thinking what are some hackathons that we can, conduct. What are some problems that you think that our protocol can solve? So I think what I like to do is involve, when it comes to B2C, involve your community members, people who are on your Telegram, people who are on your Discord. Always have things like founders hours. Take an hour a week to really understand, and engage with the community. Yeah, but rather than, there are a lot of brands, and whereby, they say, oh, join our Telegram, but once you're in there, it's completely inactive. But they are continuing to put out content just one-sidedly. So what I would say is make sure it's like a two-way conversation when it comes to B2C. Yeah.
It's a two-way conversation. That is
Yes.
actually really interesting. Yeah,
And
thank you.
because we can make it very interactive in this time and day, building products is no longer just like you have a product team and they're building it on their own. You can speak to your community. What would they like to see? What are some of the improvements that can be done? And you should really think hard on that, because these are the people who will be your ambassadors. They will be the ones who help to promote, your brand, to more people. Yeah.
Well, actually, that actually brings me to the very next question that I was kind of like planning to tap into. So thank you for making that bridge, and thank you for adding your perspective to the table. That is indeed community, because I would like to deep dive a little bit further into that, right? Obviously, we're speaking about Web3, so we have to go deep into community. Now, maybe let me start with you, actually, Magda, if you want to. I would love to hear from you. In terms of community, how important is community for you as a nonprofit, but also perhaps are there special things that you try to organize, such as events or other types of endeavors, really to keep that community feeling growing and going? Yeah, would love to hear that.
Yeah, actually, the community and building a community of women in Alice in Blockchains is the reason why we exist and the reason why we are doing this, because education is extremely important. Also, what Melissa said, I would also like to add. Yes, the community is so important also to talk both ways. But I think that a lot of companies focus, so Web3 companies focus so much on the product and the content that they bring with their product, that they forget who is their target audience. Are we talking to Web3 community, or is it like something between Web 2.5, like audience who is maybe a little bit in crypto, but not so advanced? And I think that all of the Web3 companies, whatever products they're doing, they need to think also how to tell the story, how to do it as easy as possible, and to educate people who are maybe somewhere in between, Web 2 and Web 3, maybe not so much into it, and they forgot, okay, so the target audience is really, I think, really important to be aware who is it, because when we talk about Web3, there's also like layers of people who understand, who are like here when it comes to the knowledge, and also who are like pretty expert. So when it comes to us, engagement is also really important. The communities, as I said, is the main purpose why we exist, and also the educational part. What we do here, yes, we organize a lot of meetups. It's mostly local meetups, live meetups. But when it comes to more international events, this is the second year in a row that we are organizing our Web3 Tales conference, where we want to bring more more women to the Web3. Last year, we did Web3 Tales in the Museum of Contemporary Art in Zagreb. It was like a 2-day conference where we brought around 40 speakers. We also had the first institutional NFT exhibition in Croatia, in Zagreb, where we brought 10 global artists, and the topic was pretty interesting about sustainability and techno healing of women in all of the techno tech space. So it was pretty interesting, and it was let's say more generic Web3 topic, covering a lot of NFTs, also privacy, security, some of the basics, how to open a wallet. I have to say, the results, it was around 400 people last year. We did it on a, let's say, the mid-expert level. And we also did like a workshop from zero to hero, from like a basic knowledge workshop, how to open a wallet, how to do a transaction. And I have to say that we attracted more people than we expected to the basic stuff. The main stage part was pretty advanced for the audience that we had. So that keeps me going with the thought of, are we what are also the levels of knowledge when it comes to Web3 this year. We are organizing it more niche, than last year. This year the topic is DeFi. The name is Web3 Tales DeFi Detangled. It's also aimed for bringing more female DeFi speakers. I have to share that last year we have 70% of female tech Web3 speakers at the conference, and it was the first conference in the region, a tech conference, Web3 conference, that had more than 70%, like more female speakers than male speakers. So this is something where we really want to make an impact and to bring more women. So as I said, this year the focus is on DeFi. We are doing real world assets, stable coins, crypto economics, wallets, central bank digital currency. Also, it's somewhere in between Web3 and Web2, but still it's an interesting topic. Our keynote speaker is Sanya Kohn from Circle. We have Jacqueline Robinson from Toronto coming from the consensus from MetaMask in Fura. We also have some speakers, female speakers from the region, who are doing a lot of their work in LATAM. So a lot of talking about financial inclusion and let's say overview on a global basis, how different markets and who are also have different regulation, how are they solving the problems of decentralized finance, financial inclusion, and stuff like that. And to get to the last point, how we engage our members. It's on a voluntary basis, our association. We're doing it non-profit. So we have a team of 40 of our members who voluntarily included into lifting up the conference and helping with the organization. So we have like lawyers, bankers, engineers. It's like a team of 40 people who are organizing it in Zagreb. And I would be also really grateful and thankful, and I would like to invite you all, if you have time, to come. It's as Alexandra said, October 1st. So yeah, hopefully we see more women. It's definitely harder than last year, because last year the topics were more generic, but this year it's pretty niche, and we are working really strong to bring more expert DeFi female speakers. So it's a struggle, I have to say, when it comes to DeFi.
Yes, it is. It's definitely a struggle, and maybe next year we can invite you again to actually speak about the solutions that you found for this struggle. I would be really curious. Thank you for bringing all of this to the table, and I think the event is going to be awesome. Absolutely. This actually brings me back to Lindsay, because I would like to ask you also a bit more. You bring a lot of, let's say, industry experience, I think, on the table. So I would really like to take this opportunity as well to ask you a bit more when we speak about community, right? But also about social proof. How important do you think is support from external partners such as VCs or others, but also how would you, right, if you're in charge, leverage this support publicly only with announcements and events? Like, what are out of the box, almost like marketing approaches that you would bring in from a more B2B kind of perspective?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what the product is, honestly. If it's an institutional product, then reputable partners are always a green flag, in my opinion. If it's a meme or degen or even a DAO, it might not need that type of social proof from investors specifically. It really comes down to the B2B marketing and the ability to really show how you work together or why your project received that investment. So co-marketing, it is super, super important because it helps you to tap into those new communities that it might be harder for you to infiltrate otherwise. Also, co-marketing, it's really fun. I mean, especially co-sponsoring events, you get to chill and hang out with everybody instead of pinging about shareholder value. It's fun because you actually, you talk to these people all day, every day, and they're on the other side of the globe. And then when you finally get to meet each other in person, the best connections are made in person, in my opinion. But I don't think that this needs to be like super innovative all the time. Again, like going back to unsustainability, as just unsustainable practice. But I think it needs to happen enough to where people see your name to start paying attention to you.
I like that. I would already have a follow-up question in mind, but I'm going to circle back for a second to Melissa first. Melissa, do you have some thoughts about social proof by any chance? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, when I'm looking at different projects and which ones would I be interested to be part of, it really depends very little on social proof for me. To me, I would like to see who are your community members and how active are you in engaging them. Do you really mean what you are saying? Are you building what you said that you would do? I think to me that's more important, showing me proof that you are doing what you said you would set out to do. So less on social proof. I care less whether you have gotten a huge investment or you have gotten a certain investment from a specific VC, mainly because I understand that VCs, they're kind of like gambling with money. I mean, sorry to say that, but they throw, like, they give 100 companies a bunch of money and hope that one of it makes it, right, and one of it makes you 100x or 1000x of whatever you've put in. So yeah, so usually I'm not excited. Sure, it's great for the team that they have gotten investments, and they get like a longer runway, and maybe they can do more with an injection of cold hard cash money, right? But to me, at the end of the day, it's what are you building? Is what you're building useful? And yeah, that's what I would really rely on more. And I think others will also kind of how do I say, analyze the projects this way rather than having social proof, like, yeah, like we were invested by these big guys, because we know they can easily pull out at any time as well. They are not known also to be the most reliable backers. I mean, we've seen this happen quite a lot. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that. I mean, Lindsay, I saw you moving with your head. Do you agree here, or would you like to add something from your perspective to this table? Because of course, social proof is such a massive topic, right? Maybe it also depends, again, as you said, on the project, on the product, on the type of kind of like marketing approach that you take. Would you have something to say in response?
No, I think she's spot on with everything that she said. I mean, community is everything. No matter what you're building, community is everything. And all the communities can look different. It doesn't have to be a cookie cutter community. It really makes, again, like, you need to step back. You need to understand what your audience is. what resonates with them. How do you keep them engaged? You don't want a pump and dump situation that pretty much takes you to zero and now you're bankrupt. It really depends, but it is incredibly important. And I think people in the industry are still trying to figure it out.
That is quite likely. Thank you for adding your thoughts on the table. I'm showing also a couple of live comments that are coming in right from the audience. I'm sure you can see that, but there is Dalia who was commenting earlier, Noella now. We've also had a couple of others. Cannot find them now in the long thread that we're having, but there's a lot of Nisha as well. It's a lot of awesome women mostly that are watching and that are commenting. So thank you, everyone. I would like to spice this also a little bit up with a question about using the tech for tech marketing. Does anyone have any interesting thoughts about the use or the leveraging of AI in maybe marketing in general, but also Web3 marketing? Which role does it have? Does it actually help? Is it going to substitute humans? Is it going to empower us? Surely you love tools that can enhance productivity and out-of-the-box thinking. Feel free to shoot if you would like to speak up about AI and marketing.
I mean, I can jump in here. So first off, I will say that Web3 is really hard because it's a lot of anonymous data, if there's any data at all, right? So the Web2 industry culture is to collect emails and mobile numbers, and in Web3, not a ton of companies do that. I mean, you do see it, but not a lot of them do that because obviously, we're a privacy preserving ecosystem on the decentralized side, at least, right? Like centralized is a different story for compliance purposes, but we won't get into that. But not having that data can make it hard to connect with your users and understand your audience and how to acquire them. But I will say the advantage, though, is that, I mean, Web2 is starting to crack down on privacy. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen Google cutting their cookies. That's like that's a tongue twister. Google cutting their cookies. But Web3, the data's on the blockchain and it's open, so you can analyze whatever takes place on the blockchain. You can see what people are buying, how are they using competitors, what's making money in the space, what isn't, and to use that to make decisions. I will say that like if you look at Wallet Connect, they just launched an in-app messaging system, which I think is a game changer because you can actually meet your users where they are, like in their wallets. Like that's a big one. I can see a lot of people leveraging that for D2C. If you think outside of the box, again, like this is me putting on my post-sale growth hat, FAQs and implementing a chatbot in my eyes is marketing because it's user experience. So like the end game of marketing is conversion, right? So if people are learning how to use their product and they can't find answers, like you're going to lose them. So you need to make sure those are pretty tight. And then let's talk about AI for a minute. So AI is everywhere. You don't even know that there's AI involved with it. In the last few weeks, I've had some cool conversations with founders building awesome products where like they're utilizing AI to scrape KOL information on Twitter to determine like basically like a quality score, to analyze their posts, to determine what domain their audience is in. Is it DeFi? Is it NFT? Whatever. Maybe they have a PFP NFT that they've connected with their wallet or something like that. There's other AI tools that scrape the internet for like sentiment across socials and search engines, so you can really build content around what's trending in the space as well. I mean, I use AI to help me think outside of the box, or you guys hear me trying to like convey what I'm saying. My brain moves faster than my mouth. So I utilize that to kind of, put everything together for me as well. So there's a lot of use cases out there in marketing specifically, and you really need to just try them and see what makes the most impact, and see if you can get some free trials so that you don't have to use all your budget on something.
That is an excellent tip. Thank you for that. And yes, I personally completely relate to what you said about AI and using it to an extent to supplement, the types of things that you need, the types of skills that perhaps you are short of or lack altogether or need a little hand with an artificial hand. I do think that if we speak about AI, we always have to be very, very careful. But because in the end, AI, there are tools or algorithms, right, that we use for a very reason. We call them AI because they're sometimes hard to grasp. But at the moment that we actually grasp what they're doing, they just become another smart tool that we use in our daily lives. And before joining Web3, I actually wanted to become an AI researcher. I wrote 2 master theses on this topic. So I'm really, really fascinated by this topic, but I'm also sometimes quite worried about the adverse impacts that it can have on human rights, on data, on our individual agency. And that is sometimes, in my opinion, a little bit of a paradox, especially if we look at the ethics and the goals of Web3. But I would also actually like to circle, because this is not about me and what I think, but it's all about you, right? As true marketing experts. Melissa, I think that you have an excellent knowledge, if I'm not mistaken, about AI for various reasons. What are your thoughts about this very topic?
Yeah. So I mean, I was just reading a thread today on X about how in the future we are going to be using AI agents in the very near future, and we will no longer be marketing directly to consumers. So we won't be talking directly to people. Our AI agents will communicate with one another. So for example, like Lindsay has her own AI agent, and her AI agent knows very well what type of Web3 project she likes, what type of crypto she invests in. And then, as a marketer on my end, I have an AI agent that knows, that can communicate with hers as well. And how do I, present my value proposition so that her AI agent eventually chooses my project to invest in. So I think we are going quite future forward, futuristic with this, but actually it's not that, because now I would say, now with blockchain, everything we have, like Lindsay mentioned, it is open information. Your wallets, what you are buying and what are the transactions that you are making, it's out there. It's not like my bank account, a traditional bank account. You can't see what I'm putting my money in, right? So I think, I think this is a really interesting part, whereby we we will eventually evolve to doing, so no longer doing just B2C marketing, right? It's AI agent to AI agent marketing. Yeah. And of course, I would say in the low levels right now in my day-to-day marketing, I do use AI, the different platforms, to help me to put my thoughts in a more concise way. I would just type in some ideas into, like, say, Perplexity, and it would help me kind of make a summary of what I'm trying to communicate. Yeah, it has definitely helped me. But I think one thing that I would say I absolutely hate is giving over the creative side of things, like visual and videos, over to AI platforms, because I think they do a terrible, terrible jobs, and they're basically ripping off artists' works and churning out something that is actually very ugly and unusable. So it looks really fake, and I don't like it. I have very strong opinions about this, and because I love artists and I love create human creativity, what they draw, what they're able to visualize. Even if they are using digital tools, which a lot of us are using now, like Unreal Engine, we are using 3D software. But I would like to keep that part for humans, to use those tools, and be to use them and be creative with, and not just marketers typing in prompts and churning out videos that most of the time don't look good, feels really contrived. It gives you a bad feeling. I don't know how to say it, but you see it and it's fake, and it gives you a feeling of, is this the future that we really want, or is Web3 a place whereby I can incentivize and reward human creativity, which I've seen as well a lot of, as say for example the NFT community, right? You are not really yeah, sure, people buy it in the hopes of sometimes making money and returns on it, but where I see it really has value in is to reward artists for their creativity. And these people are making really cool clothes on Roblox and these different types of platforms. So I think, yeah, so that's the only kind of area where I feel we should not use AI in, whereas everywhere else, I think there is a lot of mm, there is a lot of use for AI. Yeah.
That is actually extremely interesting. Thank you for bringing all of you actually those thoughts to the table. I kind of like paraphrased you here. If you can say that in English, I think so. Yeah. And sometimes I'm unsure with my Dutch, English, Italian mix that I'm thinking in. Anyway, I was just indeed kind of like summarizing your point here on the screen, Melissa. And where we're speaking about tech coming in, AI coming in, I think that there is maybe one final question that we can discuss, hopefully slightly shorter so that we don't go too much over time, although I would love to go ahead with this talk forever. But we also must say honestly that for some of you it's really late already on Friday evening, so we so much appreciate that you're all here. And some of you also, for instance, Lindsay, you still have a whole day ahead of you, so we don't want to keep you too long. I would like to start off right with one elephant in the room. Of course, we wanted to speak about many more things, such as airdrops, referrals, more data-oriented feedback cycles. We had prepared so many awesome ideas, but those can also be discussed later. One thing that I actually do want to tap in, is actually women in Web3 from a marketing perspective. A lot can be said also about this, but I would like to end maybe on a very positive note. Do you feel, any of you, the three of you, what type of special skills do you think that women specifically are very, very able to bring on the table? Or do you think that there is no difference whatsoever? Is there something else that you would like to discuss in terms of women in Web3 or women in marketing in the Web3 space? And the reason why is, of course, Ecstasy is kind of like a female empowered community. So we do love to tap into this very topic. Maybe who would like to start? Feel free to take the floor if you have something you'd like to add.
I think it's easy to have imposter syndrome, and that's not just for women. I mean, that's for people coming into the space. I definitely have it. I get it sometimes where I'm like, I don't know what this means, or you need to take time to look into it, or not be afraid to ask those questions. I would say, Web3 is a male heavy industry, and for the females that are in it, I mean, we do have a power in masses. And joining groups like, for example, SheFi is a big one, right? They're at almost every single event and conference, and being a part of a community like that, I mean, right there is like your own like female BD group, right? So I think there is definitely power in that. I would just say, like, don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be afraid to raise your hand. I mean, it's gotten me this far, and I'm still doing it even after being around for 3-4 years at this point. Just owning that you don't know everything and you want to know more, I think is very powerful.
Those are really nice, encouraging words. And it's also so nice to hear you so modest, especially, given your track records and every one of you's track records, actually. Magda, Melissa, that goes for you as well. Thank you, Lindsay, for being so down to earth. It's appreciated, and it's nice. It's very, very nice. Maybe Magda, what do you think about this very topic? I'm sure that you have a lot to say about this, but maybe we can keep it slightly briefer with an eye on the time. Oh, yeah, please. Sorry, go ahead. Okay, yes, please go
Okay.
ahead.
Yes. Thank you. I have to. I totally agree with Lindsay. When it comes to Web3, it's pretty male dominated industry. As I also said at the beginning, the Alice in Blockchains has the aim of bringing education to broader view, so to the to female to the masses, and I think the key is to engage more people to talk about problems. I think that when we talk about Web3, we are not on the same levels. You know, some people are like more tech oriented, some are like more marketing oriented, which we see also at this session where we're talking about a lot of marketing. So the understanding of the Web3 is can also be gender impacted or profession or career impacted. So I think that we need to talk a lot about it, talking and articulating problems. Like today with this session will definitely bring more people who are also interested in with Web3, also more women who would like to learn more and to, let's say, break all the walls where they where everyone where potential candidates of joining the Web3 community maybe have, you know, like they're not so sure how to involve. So definitely SheFi in the Central Eastern Europe region, we have our Alice in Blockchain Association. So all of these initiatives will eventually bring more people, more women to the industry to feel like more included and engaged. So
Yeah, I think even when it comes to this part of the world, in Singapore and in Asia, there are lots of female, specific communities that you can join. Even myself, when I started it, I would like to also, thank my friends who mention things and talk about crypto just within our friend group, right? And that's how actually got me interested. And I think there's a lot of value in trying to just have an open mind and learning from what other people are doing. And I think it's really commendable that we have role models in the workplace, in Web3 companies as well, that we can see that a lot of the marketers and the community builders, they are women, and it's not at all a male dominated space, right? I mean, yeah, sure, there's a that we could have more women in the space, but I think everyone is so welcoming, and I don't think we should be afraid to explore and learn more about Web3. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, Lindsay. I just, whilst listening to everyone, I kind of like misspelled your name, but thank you all for being the true role models. Actually, like Melissa said, I think that there's a lot of awesome women in the space, and you are definitely three of them. So I just wanted to put that on screen, but yeah, whilst typing, I put an error there. However, nonetheless, I would just really, really like to thank you for your time, just because we're all tiny little bit over time. Thank you for tuning in from indeed Europe, Croatia, the US, Lindsay, and Melissa, you as well. Friday evening for you in Singapore. So it's much appreciated that you all wanted to hop on this community call and that you are. I think final thing, maybe if anyone has any marketing related questions or maybe questions about your organizations, right? Alice in Blockchain, maybe Melissa about all the work that you're doing in the Web2 and Web3 space, Lindsay maybe about the Neri Labs or some of your other involvements. I hope it's fine that everyone reaches out to you, maybe on LinkedIn or elsewhere at some point. If not, shake your head right now. If you consent, I will just say thank you so much for your time and thank you for having been here.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
so
And
much.
thank you, Alexandra, for bringing us together.
It was a thrilling pleasure. I hope to see everyone again in a couple of weeks from now when we do our next session. Date will be announced soon. And have a wonderful rest of your evening wherever you are. And speak soon, everyone. I'm going to end the stream. Bye-bye.
Thank you.